Okay, I think we're live. Sorry for the late start and for the few days off. It was my son's birthday, so we had a lot going on there. I don't think Chip is going to be here today, but we're just going to do, I think, a little bit of a quicker stream. We're just going to install the X-axis, and then we'll save the tool head for another day. But we should be able to get a little bit done today and keep this progress going. I've got like 10 days left until I leave for Remurf, so got to keep this going. I don't want to let it sit too long. One thing, so I didn't print the other end caps with supports, but I did with these ones. So we're just going to take a little bit of time really quick and pop that out. I'm just taking an Allen wrench here, and if I can figure out my recording situation. We're just going to pop them out. I don't know if you can see if it just like, there it goes. Hopefully not where it's aiming at you in the eyes, but they should pop out pretty easy depending on your support settings. Yeah, those are flying. I'll have to pick those up later. And a little bit more. I also was a little late today because I was messing around with some drivers in Windows earlier, trying to see if I could remotely control my old Casio EXF1, and the drivers I installed messed up all my USB devices. So I had to go in and do a system restore in Windows, and that was not something I had anticipated for this evening, but luckily it worked out. Didn't have to restore from a big backup, so we're all good to go there. Okay, so we have our two end caps that are ready. Let's see, what other prep do we need here? I have tried to move full-time over to using Onsel. See if I can get it over there. Oh, maybe not. It's not switching. Okay, so that's Firefox. I don't have one set up for CAD. That's the problem. One sec. Man, I thought I had this all figured out. I'm getting better at it, but OBS takes a little time to get all sorted out. Do CAD, switch to scene. Yeah. This will be the window. Window capture for Onsel. For that. Haha, there we go. All right. So, I've been trying to use this a lot more rather than FreeCAD. I'm getting the hang of it. Really, really happy to see the project taking off with, free and open source software. So yeah, highly recommend you guys check it out. Again, Chip did all of this design in FreeCAD, and all this is basically just FreeCAD with a better GUI and a little bit easier control. Hey Dominic, good to see you, dude. You show up to like just about all these streams. You might be my top viewer. Good to see you. Are you building a Prusa right now, or you interested in it? Maybe you go by a different tag in Discord and I just don't know yet. See, the rotation is what kind of gets me off. I'm so used to Fusion 360 like locking it to the center, but I know this is better once I get the hang of it. So we're gonna get these. Probably gonna be easier if I get the rods installed. And let's see here. So if I hide the tool head, we're not doing anything with the tool head today. Oh, can't hide it all the way though, because we will need there's two, you see the orientation of the, yeah, the bearings here. So we're going to keep those. We can hide the rest of it. Oh, but if I hide the parents, I can't see the children. See, those are like little differences that I'll have to get the hang of. But I think what it is it's, if I'd like hide this, for example. Oh, no way, that's part of that. There we go. So I think there's two on top, and there's one on bottom. I believe that's the structure there. And if we get it wrong, we can always come back later. Now, one thing that also, like, I'd love to see a difference for is when you hide something, you can't just like Control Z to back out of it. So that's something that I've got a couple of, I found some macros that help with that. But I haven't had a lot of experience with them yet, so we'll see how that goes. So yeah, we do our rods here, two on top, one on bottom, and we're gonna get this kind of pre-built here so that we can put it into place without fussing around with it too much. But before, actually, I remember this spot. Before we do that, we're gonna pre-install these screws right here. These are actually set screws. They're gonna help keep the rods at just the right distance. And if these rods right here bow in at all, this will help push it outwards so that, if I can switch back to my main camera, they'll help push outwards so that these, you know, if they're pulling inwards or bowed in, then they're going to bind. So we're going to pull them outwards, and that those screws will push and straighten those out if needed. So we're going to pre-install those and get that ready to go. And I think that's just a screw and a square nut. Wait, do we have those already installed? Okay, so there's no... I don't think there's a square nut down there. It's just so you can see. Yeah, no square nut. But we will need M3 by 8 screws. Now, since we're working with individual parts, we're going to set this off to the side. This is assuming I don't have these out already, but it's M3 by 8 hex heads. Got M3 by 8 button heads out. M3 by 8 hex. There we go. So in each of these spots where the rods will go through, there's a hole on the other end. And that's where the screw is going to go into. So the screw is going to act as the backstop for the rods. I have a graphic to show for that as well in Chip's guide. There we go. So just pre-install them, just get them a couple threads in. Don't worry too much about getting them all the way in at this point. I need to tape up these holes. It's actually on the other side here that my screw dropped into it. But tweezers get the job done. Nice. You'll be converting 4 this summer? Well, we should have the kits ready for you by then, man. Or if you're self-sourcing your own parts, that's great too. I'm excited to see that. Okay, we won't need these again, so we're gonna put them back. And I just realized I started threading this into the wrong hole. So let's fix that. This one goes on the outside here. Add it over here. But right there's where we want it. Okay. Back over to, that's that. There we go. Let's go ahead and let's move this out of the way. And check these right here. So I think, yeah, so these have a square nut behind them. And these are M3 by 14s. I think we had those out before. Let's check. They're hex heads. Perfect. We've got M3 by 14s right here. Trying not to spill these all over the place. Okay, so as it's standing up like this, got the two little slots here. Those should fit. Let's see if I can do this with tweezers so it's easier to see. A lot of this, even though, like, yeah, you can see on camera what I'm doing, is kind of to help with pictures later on when we're making the guide. So these will go, well, I don't know if I'm going to get a good shot of this, but maybe this would be easier to show in CAD. But actually, these feel like they might be a little big for this. Oh, it's a little bit of a stretch, but I think it'll work. I'm just going to use the tool to push it down a little further. It's a lot tighter than I was expecting it to be. These are not the ones that came with the kit. These are ones I sourced myself because we need to up the number that's going to come in the kit. Yeah, that's awesome. Self-sourcing, I think you'll save a little bit of money if you're going on the cheaper end of things. If you're wanting to get like the official, what's it called? The Sherpa mini extruder and genuine Gates belts and stuff, you'll definitely save some money with going with the kit. Okay, I think I was able to push that down there enough. Yeah, looks like that's solid now. I think this one too, I can see that I printed this one. It looks like either with higher infill or didn't have my settings the same in the slicer. Not higher infill, flow rate. The filament flow rate. This one feels like it's going a little easier. Not even sure if I caught that on camera last time. But make sure we get it this time. Here we go. Yeah, so we can see through right here. Probably not as much on camera, but those are in the right spots. We said 3x14s. We've got those. And this is what's going to tighten onto the X rods. Okay, so yeah, that's definitely in the right spot because we can get our screw all the way down in there. Let's back it out a little bit because we don't need any tension there. So Dominic, is it four of your printers that you've had for a while? Do you run a print farm? What's the story there? That's quite lucky to be able to have four Mark IIIs. It's awesome. May have asked you something like that before, but I'm just gonna work this back and forth to make sure it's felt a little tight there. I think it's like mostly in position, just not dead center, but that'll be okay. That'll be good for now. Now I had the other one. Okay, here it is. Right in front of my nose. Why don't we switch this one for a close-up? There we go. That's also easier to see on my end, too. I can't believe I can get these good of shots just on my old iPhone XR. Like, this does a lot better than some of the cheaper cameras I've bought, just, like, even though they record 4K or 60 FPS. Like, the image sensor on this and the focusing abilities are pretty good, honestly. Gonna have to save up for one of those, what is it, the Sony ZV, the one that everyone recommends for blogging and YouTube stuff. But it's a little bit more money. Okay, those went in. Yeah, the beautiful part about this too is a lot of the parts that you need for this conversion are stuff that you might just have laying around already if you've been in the 3D printer space. So rods, extrusion, extruders, all that type of stuff, bearings. Like you probably have a lot of spares of those around if you have been in 3D printing for a while. And so the cost goes way down for anyone that's already using those kinds of parts in their environment. And you might be thinking like, kid, like I could build 2 3D printers with the spare parts I have, which is how I feel sometimes. The integrated lead screw motors, I think, are the biggest thing that you'll have to source. But yeah, that's kind of the bigger piece of it. So looking good there. Find our rods. These are the right length. Yep. Okay. Now, make sure we get this right. Which one is it? This one? Yeah. Oh, there it goes, all wonky. Go down. Okay. I want to look at it from the front. Where's my... Oh, here it is. I was looking for my cube up here, but it's down here in Onsel. All right. So if we're looking left to right, we have on here, top right is where the bearing stack goes. And on the left, oh no, computer, don't fail me now. There we go. And on the left, the bearing stack goes on the bottom. So if we come back here, it's gonna go, bring this out, like so. That is, those rods are gonna go together, but this is the idea, just as far as I can tell. All right, we said 2 bearings on top, 1 on bottom, I think, for the rods. Yep. See, there's just 1 bearing here. Oop. So yeah, 2 bearings up here, 1 on bottom. Just 1 bearing there. So Two on top. Oh man, my close-up camera's getting a little janky. This one's on Wi-Fi and it's beholden to the internets. Yeah, the Core XY bug is interesting, man. I didn't understand it when I first saw it. I was like, why would you make it more complicated like that? But once I understood, like, oh, well, you lower the moving mass. You don't have to move your motors back and forth. They stay static. Um, that's when once I finally understood the benefits of it, I started getting really excited about it. Okay, so if this is our top right motor, so this one goes on the right, we're going to go top. We're just going to lay this out flat so that we get this right. Back over here. So that is the basic idea. It's going to look like so. Don't think I'm missing anything there. Hey Juma, good to see you, dude. Bulbasaur, dude, everyone's showing up now. The Core XY bug is basically, so the Core XY motion system is a departure from the old school, I won't say old school really, in the standard Cartesian motion system, you have Y that moves back and forth, so your Y motor moves the either the bed or a gantry back and forth, but your X-axis almost always has a motor attached to it. Well, depending on what style you're coming from, like the i3 style, it's moving the bed back and forth, and that's a lot of mass. But with Core XY, the bed stays stationary except for the Z direction, and the motors stay stationary and move the gantry back and forth without the motors having to be attached to it. And if I can dig out, let's take a detour here and look at what a folder. You guys are gonna see the junk pile here, but here's an Ender 5, and we switch it over to this. So here's the Ender 5. This one's, I've got a different project I'm working on for this, but the motor goes back and forth, or the gantry goes back and forth. But in the back here, there's a motor, and that motor has to move with the gantry. And so you can go with a slimmer motor, but basically it hurts your speed because that motor has to move back and forth as well. So with Core XY, you get a lot of reduction in your moving mass, and that helps being able to go fast. And speed is the name of the game these days, what people want. I should say a lot of people, but that's kind of the idea. So the Core XY bug is being bitten by the bug, so to speak. That's kind of a what's the word I'm looking for? It's a saying in the English words, meaning that you kind of got the sickness, you got the bug to do something, and now it's hard to go back. Nice, a Delta printer. I've always wanted one. I haven't gotten one yet. It's such a cool design, though. Those ones are completely different kinematic system than what we just talked about. So here we go. I am gonna pull up Chip's guide for the. Gotta switch this over though. Apparently, I can't do that. Oh, no! I'm doing the wrong button combination. There we go. Got ahead of ourselves here. But see, this is what I was talking about at the beginning of the stream. Those two screws. See how they go through and they're going to touch the ends of those rods. And I don't know if he shows it here. He does somewhere. Yeah. So this is what the rods are going to want to do once you fasten them. They're going to want to bend inwards. And by putting those screws in, we're pushing in into the X rods, which bends these back out so they keep them nice and straight. So that's the idea that we're going for here. So let's back this up. Almost forgot about this part. We need to cut some tape, some foam tape. And I have a small tool to help with this. Let's see if I can find it. So if you get the kit, it's going to come with just a single piece like this, but you need to cut 2 pieces out of this. The dimensions I don't have exactly in front of me, but I made this just kind of a template. I don't know if you can tell, but it's got a small raised ridge on it. So it's supposed to be able to sit over. Probably easier if I demonstrate here. Let's zoom this in, back up. So if we fit it over the tape, like, man, I'm gonna have to zoom in even more. Working with small pieces. But if we fit it over the tape, like so, and then hold it down, we can just use a hobby knife or X-Acto knife, if you want to call it that, to cut our pieces out. I don't know if this is the best thing. There's probably a better way to get a template for this, but I can kind of feel there. That's where I need to cut along. So I'm going to grab my knife. I don't know if I'll be able to get all this on camera. Trying to find an orientation where I can control it, but also not hide everything from the camera. So being very careful not to cut your thumb. Cut along the template. Yeah, we'll definitely get a better tool than this. This is just something I threw together really quickly to do this. Okay, see if that cut through. You know, I probably, now that I think about it, should have gone from the other side. But we did score it, which is what we needed to do. And now that I've done that, we can go to the back and cut through the backing. It should just like rip off once you cut through the tape. And we did have another cut here. Yeah. Okay, so I think this is really the size we need. So let's do that one more time, since we know we'll need another piece. It wasn't the straightest cut, but it'll do the job. Let's go on our clean edge here. I'm doing this right? Okay, yep. I'm not going to worry about trying to get this one on camera. Okay, so we've got 2 similarly sized pieces of foam tape here. Set the rest over here. That needs to go inside here. Looks like mine may have been just a touch long. I'm going to take just a bit off the end here. It's going to be hard to do. When you're doing stuff like that, scissors, or even better, these guys, side cutters or clippers. Just going to take a little bit off because it should sit down in here without any fuss. Yeah, just like that. This kind of curves downwards and inwards, but there is a flat section, a flat backing there, and that's printed as an overhang. So I think the intention of this is to provide a nice kind of flat surface and also give it something to compress against, so you have a little bit of room to actually tighten it. Every time you move your delta around, you have to recalibrate it. Man, I know that feeling. It was just like that with my Ender 5, because it uses the thumb screws in the bed, and that was the leveling mechanism. There was no ABL, there was no auto bed leveling or mesh leveling when I first got it. So we had to do it like the olden days and try to level it by hand. Come a long way since then. Obviously, you want your bed to be as level as possible. But the fact that mesh bed leveling can sort out all the other imperfections is godsend. Man, I had it. I'll try to get this started here. Well, should we try to make sure, I should line this up and double check it's going to fit, because I had to take some off the last one. This one seems to be the right size, so I think I just kind of missed the last one. Maybe just a touch. Maybe I can take just a hair off. Yeah, not much at all. Okay, there we go. Lay it in. Got a little bit of a string there, but I'm not too worried about it. Again, it's all going to compress to give us what we want here. Okay, there we go. Just like that. Now, we're probably going to end up loosening these to align everything later. But what I want to do now, these are just very loose to, I don't want them falling off. So I'm going to make sure these are backed out pretty far. I'm going to push them in all the way. And then I'm going to tighten these down to keep the rods locked in place. Let's just go close up for this, shall we? That's not very locked in. I'm gonna have to tighten it a lot more, but I don't want to really. Want there to be some movement. Let's give it another quarter to a half. That's. Hope I didn't print these with too much. No, I bet they're meant to squeeze down a lot more, and that does work. So that's what the reliefs are for. The relief cuts in here for those kind of sandwich down as you tighten it. Drop this other one, which is what I was trying to avoid in the first place. Okay, I feel like I can kind of work that a little bit easier now without stuff falling out. Okay, just a touch more over here. Just don't want to deform the part. Whack. Okay. So you can see in Chip's guide here, this foam tape is what we just did. We have those screws installed. And now, yeah, this part's pretty easy. As we can see, we're just going to install this. They're going to push up against these bearings on the y-axis. And then we're going to install the caps like so. We know we'll need M3 by 14s. We've already got those out right here. And we're going to go main camera for this. See how close we got it. Actually, I might be able to slide it in. Oh, okay. I might have to take one of these screws out at least. Right here. Because this is stopping it from going down over the rods. It should. If you can't get it in like that, then something's too tight or not positioned right. And to make this easier, slide them all to one end, then you can get it worked in there. A little bit easier, I think. See, already this feels like it wants to bend these rods out a little bit. Now, you won't deform them just from this step, so and it should, yeah, kind of click into place, but we know we have tension going outwards here, and so that's what these screws are going to help with later on. It's still not horrible right now. I do want to loosen the screws that we were tightening up earlier, though. Where is my wrench? We can use this. Looks like those are on the back. Ooh, this might not be the best suited for the job. This wasn't the one I started with, but it'll work. Just want to give these plenty of room to align themselves as we're fastening everything else into place. Hopefully we don't have them falling out. Okay, I can twist those easily, so I know they're not too tight. And I think there's a small lip on the back that kind of holds the bearing in place. But I don't think there's one on the front, so probably better get this all the way to the back. Now I'm a little worried because this doesn't feel like it's square. but it might just be with how everything's in there right now. But we're going to keep an eye on that. So as I move it back, it should, like this end is touching and is flush, but this end I can still push in a little bit. Seeing if that's just yeah, that's probably just a product of not having everything locked in yet, or having one screw tighter than the other. So with that in place, we'll double check our square later, but you know, if you're doing this on your build, this might be a good time to back up and check it, but forging ahead. So these ones, these are the caps with the Y. These ones have the snake oil infinity sign logo, which I think looks absolutely sick. I love it. Dominic, do you have one of the FL Sun Deltas, or is there another brand? I know FL Sun was kind of the big player in Deltas for a long time, with at least the inexpensive ones. Curious if those are still the go-to, or if there's other ones out there that are good options. Okay, this is one where I think the star pattern is going to be important. Don't over tighten one before you have them all at least in a couple of turns. Yeah, I'm going to go 2 turns on all of these, and then I'll tighten them down in a pattern to finger tight. On ones where I know there's like a little bit of like, I don't know if it's just like fighting on the printed part or not, I'm going to go in a few turns and back it out. I'll know how far they are with, let's just say we'll leave it just proud of the printed part. Probably can't see it on camera, but that's just going to be my frame of reference. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing on the other side before we tighten anything up. Feels like it's going in, but yeah. There we go. I know if you're not 100% square, I mean no frame is 100% square, right? But if they're not touching at the same time, or if you notice that it's not quite square as you like, Core XY, you can adjust that with belt tension, but that's just kind of hiding the sins of something not being quite square. And it might have come from during our installation or even the frame spacing. I know we undid some of this extrusion to get access to some other stuff, but I will be checking that off camera just to confirm everything is good as it needs to be, and I'll check with Chip to see what's expected at this level. Because there are other things like even tightening these down that will affect the squareness of everything. But today the goal was get the x-axis installed, show that process, and give us the ability to move on to the tool head next. So we're going to tighten these down, not like using the other side. We're not going to torque them down. We're just kind of barely tightening now. And then we're going to see how well it moves back and forth, and then adjust these screws up top as needed. Oh, I just realized you can't even see that. Adjust these screws as needed and see how she plays out. Any cubic. Nice. Oh man, I've forgotten which ones I've tightened so far. That's okay. Okay, let's see how she does. The truth. Okay, that's not bad. That's pretty good. I think definitely can be better, but that's not bad at all. Except for the fact I've screwed up and this bearing is poking out. Don't know if you can see that right here. That's supposed to be inside, so we're gonna fix that. I was expecting it to be quite a bit worse with the motion, considering that like that's not bad at all for where we're at. Can't believe I tightened that without the bearing being all the way in there. Sure, that's all the way in. Okay. I don't want to hold it against this as I tighten it because that'll influence the printed part. But yeah, go ahead and tighten that in first this time because the other side has a block, so it can't come out this side. But the front part of it is open, so the bearing can, if it wanted to, slide out that way. So we're going to tighten this end first to make sure it's locked in. At least tighten it enough to where it's not going to pop out. Then we'll come back here. As I'm not showing anything, but man, tonight's was supposed to be kind of just a quick one because, oh, it's been a crazy weekend and trying to catch up on some sleep, man. This is the only one that seemed like it bought me before it went in. Okay, so it kind of felt like it popped into place there. That's good. At least I think it's good. I mean, it found its home in a spot that it wanted to be. And a few of the other screws got easier, so that's good. Which ones have we tightened? Which ones have we not? Just go through them all here. Okay, that one was a little too tight, I think. This doesn't need to be too crazy. It just needs to hold that bearing in place. Okay. See that? That is... I'm pretty happy with that. Let's see how... So I guess depending on where you're moving it from... Yeah, I think we're a lot better now that we loosened everything up so these rods had the room to move in and out as they wanted. See, if they have left and right motion, then we're good. But I was worried that I had them, that everything was going to be pushing outward even after loosening these screws up. So now, for the final bit of the stream, we're going to make our best attempt to avoid this problem right here. We're going to make our best attempt to tighten these until they're touching. But if they're touching and it's moving back and forth fine, then I'm not going to tighten them very much. So if your tool head does not move smoothly, that might likely means that Y rods are slightly bow inward, like the picture seen, and the gantry width is shorter than the frame width. I don't think it does. Dominic, good question. He's asking if the bearing orientation matters. I'm gonna open or get another one out here. I actually did have two more from the kit. We're gonna look at this. So, two things that I've heard from this. We're gonna kind of just think through this in an inexperienced manner. But what he's saying is that, you know, inside here there's 4 strips of ball bearings. I don't know if you can get a good picture in there, but it's basically, yeah, so you can see there's 4 as I rotate it. So he's asking like, hey, does it matter if we're sitting on like one set of ball bearings versus like in the middle? And I'm just going to answer with what I have heard anecdotally. Obviously, this can rotate and move around in there, but I've heard that these LM8 UU bearings are like actually overkill for our application in 3D printing. I have to assume one is technically ideal than the other, but I did not orient those. If orientation does matter, then I'll have Chip let me know, but I haven't heard of it ever mattering before. If you have any information that suggests otherwise, let me know, because I'm not actually entirely sure. I haven't ever actually done a 3D printer with these rods. I have a Soval SVL6 that uses those, but that was just like pre-installed, and you know, I'd be very surprised if they cared at all about those when they're installing. So I'm also not sure how you would tell, because there's no, is there any indication on these as where the ball bearings line up? I don't know if it does. So yeah, let me know, Dominic. As of right now, I don't think so, based on what I've heard and seen, but I could always be wrong. So all I'm going to do is just tighten these until I feel it touch. Which is probably right about there. Now, if you want these to stay in place, you're going to probably have to use some Loctite. But right now, we're just getting it working. Now, here's the one that I took out earlier in order to get it installed. I was super worried when they didn't touch the printed parts at the same time, but then as once I put everything into place and saw it move as smoothly as it did. Okay, so like tightening it too much, that doesn't move as smoothly as before. So I'm just gonna back everything out like a little bit. This means I tightened into that a little bit too far, I think. So just until I get like basically what would be finger tight. So like I'm turning, and then as it stops, leaving it at that. Feels very smooth. Let's just check the other side really quick. Of course, tightening one side or loosening one side affects the others. I'm just gonna go with that. And like that. See that? That's much looser. I don't know if you can tell, but when I toss it one way or the other, it continues going. It keeps its inertia a little longer. So, yeah, that's exciting, guys. I think we're going to leave it at that. Dominic, Juma, Kolbasaur, I really appreciate you guys showing up every time for the stream, even if you're just here kind of watching to see how things go. You're here to laugh at me if I mess up more. I really do appreciate it. It's awesome to like have people that I'm sharing with this that actually care about the project and are interested in it. I was really kind of iffy about live streaming at all, but the fact that you guys show up and are interested in it, like, kind of keeps me motivated to keep going. So, greatly appreciated. Catch you next time. See you tomorrow if we can get the tool head installed. We'll see ya. Have a great night.